Well, we're both pretty busy, but I can tell you that we've been in constant communication with the mayor's office. I've spoken to her on a daily basis for the past week at least. We spoke multiple times yesterday. We spoke today. My senior advisor, Kiefer Mitchell, is a former Baltimore City Councilman and a member of the legislature, has been assigned to work directly with the mayor. He's probably with her right now. We're now coming in to try to help relieve the situation, but it's still Baltimore City, and she's still the mayor. We're here to help her, and we're trying to provide all the help we can possibly give her.
Are you aware of any problems, either logistical or dealing with protesters that you've had since the National Guard has been on the ground? I know police have made arrests. Have you run into any trouble, again, logistically or with anyone on the ground?
Not to my knowledge. Maybe if anybody has something they want to talk about. I think so far, and I preface it by saying so far because we've got a long night ahead of us. But so far, I think we've not run into any major issues and any major glitches. We've got things a little bit better under control than they were last night. We got more manpower on the streets, and we're communicating better. And so far, although there have been some arrests, we haven't had the kind of situations we had yesterday afternoon.
If I could just follow up on this, what is the plan heading into tonight, and how will you make sure that there isn't any unrest like there was last night?
Well, you can't ensure that there's not going to be any unrest. I'm not a magician, but what I can assure you is that we will put all the resources that we have at our disposal to make sure that the disturbances don't get out of hand and we don't get overwhelmed like happened last night. We've got a lot of manpower on the street. You can see looking around this room, there's a lot of people focused on this problem. And we're in management of the situation now, and we're going to put whatever resources are necessary to make sure we keep the people of Baltimore safe.
Can you talk a little bit about your experience with the people of Baltimore on your walk?
Yeah, well, thank you, Pat. It was, I was really touched by the fact that we got up there when the sun was rising this morning, and we walked through ground zero, all the neighborhoods that got hit the worst. And what I saw, there were folks up there this morning at 5 a.m., neighbors helping neighbors, and sweeping up the broken glass, helping people board up their windows, clearing the trash out of the streets. And we tend to focus on all the problems, but we've got to focus on the violence. But there's a lot of good going on in the city, too. And I found people that really love the city, love their neighborhood, and who are really angry about what happened last night. They were very happy to see us. I mean, we had people hugging us and thanking us. They were happy to see us, and as the general said, they were happy to see the National Guard. They were happy to see the state police. They were saying, thank you for being here. People are concerned. They want us to restore law and order. We've been very restrained. There's been a pretty good, in spite of the tension out there in the community, we got a lot of people thanking us for being here, and we didn't have any major incidents yet.
Do we have any idea how long the extra police and the National Guard will be necessary?
We're going to keep them here as long as is necessary, and we don't know at this point how long that's going to be.
Well, how do you judge that? What has to happen so that you can finally say it's time to get things back to normal?
I'm going to have to make that call myself, and I guess I'll know it when I see it. But we're going to get the best information to make that decision.
Governor, there's a curfew tonight. Any thoughts on how that might be enforced, or what will happen?
Well, it gives us an opportunity to clear the streets, and if people are in violation of the curfew, if we feel it makes sense, we can start arresting people.
Do you think the mayor made a mistake by not asking you to deploy the National Guard earlier?
Look, I don't want to point fingers at anyone. I'm not here to place blame. I'm here to try to solve the problem. I don't want to second guess the mayor's decisions. I know that she was trying the best she could. This was a difficult situation. The Baltimore City Police and Fire were doing the best they could. And when she asked us for help, we immediately responded. I know that it typically takes 8 hours to mobilize the Guard. We did it in 3 because we were already ready and we were prepared. We set up this emergency operations center last Saturday. We prepared the executive order last Saturday. Our team has been in constant communication. We set up our command center. We've been working all week. We've been in communication with the city all week. Earlier yesterday, I talked with General Singh and told her to prepare the Guard and get them ready to be activated. So she took a lot of steps to get everybody teed up kind of on the starting line, ready to act. When the mayor called, I signed an executive order 30 seconds later. The guard was already on the way.
You said that you started getting ready last Saturday?
Well, we opened up the Emergency Operations Center here in preparation in case there was violence that broke out.
At the initial protest?
Yeah. Look, I don't want to get into what happened before. Let's talk about what we're going to focus on in the future. Right now, we're trying to keep Baltimore City safe, we're trying to work the best we can with the city and provide as much support as we can. Anybody else? Well, thank you all so much for being here, and let's all hope that tonight's a little safer night. Thank you.
The governor of Maryland, Larry Hogan, over at the Maryland Emergency Management Agency, updating us on what the state of Maryland is doing right now, including deploying U.S. National Guard, State National Guard troops on the scene. There's a state of emergency underway. Let's get a quick update from the scene itself. Brian Todd is on the streets. Brian, you're walking with these protesters?
You're not kidding, man. Still busy.
I don't know if Brian can hear me right now. Clearly, we can't. Brian can't hear. We'll get to Brian in a moment. But let me get reaction from the president of the NAACP, Cornell W. Brooks, is joining us as well. You're in Baltimore, Cornell. What did you think of what the governor had to say?
Well, I am heartened by a few words. The use of the words appropriate, caution, appropriate steps, which were the words offered up by the adjutant General Singh. At this juncture, anything that promotes a sense of security and calm for the residents and citizens of Baltimore is a good thing. The fact that the mayor reached out to the governor indicates that certainly that she feels that the presence of the National Guard contributes to the security of the city, so I believe that that's important. The most important thing here is that we establish not only a sense of security, but also a sense of trust. I think the fact that there are volunteers who are coming in, as you may know, the NAACP opened a satellite office in Sandtown so that we might signal to the community that we, along with so many others, will continue to work day in and day out to bring about justice for the family of Freddie Gray. But then, in addition to that, to respond to this ongoing challenge across the country. So this is a tense time, but there are a good number of people who are working to bring about justice with peace, not the least of whom are all the people on the streets that we've seen across the day, cleaning up streets that they did not sully and dirty, and shoring up businesses that they did not burn or loot. So that's encouraging.
Cornell, don't leave us. Stay with us. I want to try to reconnect with Brian Todd. Once again, he's on the streets of Baltimore. Brian, where are you?
Wolf, we're on trying to get the cross streets here. We're on Lawrence Street near North Bruce Street. We thought we might be going to the Western District Police Station, but they have made a turn to the east, heading toward North Mount Street. They may yet turn to the south to head toward that precinct. We're not quite sure where they're going. As was the case last night, we don't know where this is going. We don't know whether this kind of a march could turn violent later. Last week when we were following marchers, it did get a little tense on occasion. Last night, there wasn't so much marching as there was random looting and burning, as you saw. But so far, this is a very kinetic, dynamic situation with these marchers. I talked to the protest leader not long ago. He said he's committed to exhorting these people not to be violent. But we know that from experience from last week that when they start to march through the streets and pick up people along the way, anything can happen, Wolf.
Let's hope it does stay peaceful, and you're going to continue to march with them. Brian, earlier, President Obama spoke out very forcefully on the rioting in Baltimore, saying the city was torn up by, quote, criminals and thugs. His words, criminals and thugs. But he also says there are police across the country who, in his words again, aren't doing the right thing. right now. Let's go to our White House correspondent, Michelle Kaczynski. Michelle, update us on what the president had to say in the Rose Garden.
Hey, well, Frey, he went on about this. And, you know, it was only 24 hours ago that we saw this very low-key response from the White House on what's going on in Baltimore. That's similar to what we've seen in other police incidents since Ferguson. But today, the president knew somebody was going to ask a question about this in the Rose Garden during this press conference, and he was ready. I mean, he let loose on what he feels about this for 14 minutes, using some pretty blunt language and saying there's no excuse for violence.
Senseless violence and destruction. That is not a protest. That is not a statement. It's people, a handful of people taking advantage of a situation for their own purposes, and they need to be treated as criminals. Criminals and thugs who tore up the place. This has been a slow rolling crisis. This has been going on for a long time. This is not new. And we shouldn't pretend that it's new. If our society really wanted to solve the problem, we could. It's just it would require everybody saying this is important, this is significant. And that we don't just pay attention to these communities when a CVS burns. But we're paying attention all the time because we consider those kids our kids, and we think they're important, and they shouldn't be living in poverty and violence. That's how I feel.
Yeah, some of this was surprising in that he said, you know, this is not a protest. Not everybody was pleased that he used the word thug there. But when you look at the entirety of what he said, I mean, you can see him really trying to be diplomatic here and cover all the bases. First, he clearly wanted to call out strongly those who are committing violent acts, as well as applaud the people within the community who are trying to stop that violence, and even said, you know, they often get far less attention than the violent people do. And he wanted to support police officers who are doing their job correctly, but he also wanted to call out those police who aren't. And he put this extremely diplomatically, saying that there have been too many instances of police interacting with people, primarily African Americans, often poor, in ways that raise troubling questions, and saying that these things come up now, it seems like every week or every couple of weeks, Wolf.
Michelle, thanks very much. I want to go back to Cornell Brooks, the president of the NAACP. Cornell, you think the president went far enough, went too far? Were you satisfied with his remarks?
The president sounded two themes that are equally important. The first theme that he sounded was the fact that violence and looting does nothing to offer consolation or justice for the family of Freddie Gray. Nothing. And the second theme he sounded was that the overwhelming majority of people are attempting to protest peacefully. And so we have to both call out the violence, but also lift up the fact that most people are pursuing a reform of policing in this country nonviolently. Those themes are important to sound. Walking through the streets of Baltimore, through Sandtown, seeing people clean the streets, seeing men stand between police officers and protesters, attempting to offer and create a wall of trust. That's important. It's a testament to the character of the people in this city. I think at this juncture, it's critically important that the president speak to the situation as he has and as so many people around the country are doing. Because here's what we need to keep in mind. If a generation ago Martin Luther King said that violence is the language of the unheard, what happens when so many people are crying for reforms of policing in this country and they don't yet feel heard? It then seems like violence is the language of the unseen and the unheard. We've got to heed what people are saying. Policing has to be reformed in this country. We need body cameras. We need to pass the Interracial Profiling Act. We need to move away from a form of policing that engenders distrust and endangers both police officers and the community. We can do that. And the president is right. If we're all involved, we're all committed, and we're all committed to our young people, we can do this. And the issue is important whether or not a convenience store burns in Ferguson or a drugstore burns in Baltimore. It's important all the time because of our kids.
Let's get some more thoughts. Cornell, if you could stay with us, I'd be grateful. I want to bring in Tom Fuentes, our CNN law enforcement analyst, the former assistant director of the FBI. We've heard now from the mayor, the police commissioner, the governor of the state of Maryland.